Well, you join me today in the village of Semington, which is close to Trowbridge, 3 miles northeast and a few miles south of Melksham. So we're going to take a look around the village and see some of the fine old buildings and other interesting features. So this is the workhouse. It's built 1836 to 1838 and known as the Melksham Union. In 1898 it was renamed Trowbridge and Melksham Union. In 1930 the workhouse became Trowbridge Public Institution. Between 1948 and 1988 St George's Hospital, which cared for the elderly, infirm and those with a mental handicap. 2002 and 3 it was redeveloped for housing. Behind that undergrowth, I believe that's a World War II defence. Semington was on the GHQ line and was designated as a centre of resistance. The Kennet and Avon Canal and the River Avon making it that should the Germans have crossed the channel, then a defensive line would have been made using those natural features and taking advantage of it. There we go, we can get a better view here. So that's still standing, although overgrown. So we're now entering the centre of the village with all these beautiful properties, old ones, many 16th, 17th and 18th century. This one is the old rectory. We'll now go into towards the church, and there's an old chapel. So this is Church Street. In this street, many of the oldest buildings are actually found, along with a modern mix been built over the years. I think you agree the one coming up on the right is a very old property. So this is much of the modern stuff here. We'll get to the church in a moment. And then there's a very old farmhouse at the end of this lane, which we'll take a look at. So this is St George's Church. It's Grade 2 listed for planning reasons. So it starts from around about 1300. A church on this site anyway. This one is probably a 15th century, but largely built in 1860. And this was the original school. There is a more modern one now. And just at the end of here very old farm, church farm, which is obviously private property. We'll just get to this gateway and give you a view of that farm building. And then we have some more modern houses just here, Manor Close. Now we'll turn around, make our way back to the centre of the village. We'll walk through the rest of the village up to the Kennet and Avon Canal. We'll tell you about that also when we get there. So I'm back at the end of Church Lane now, walking back onto the High Street. Coming up on our left is the village hall. And the village hall was opened in year 1933. Now the village has been bypassed, and really only buses can go over the canal bridge further down, which we'll see in a moment. So it is quite quiet in this section. So the former petrol station is now used to car sales. What was I like to say, pre-owned these days. So plenty of cars to choose from. And number 73 across the road, a very fine old cottage. Property is the 17th century, it's the old manor house. That one is the oldest, really, one of the oldest here in Semington. And then we have the Somerset Arms. There's been a pub coaching in here for a very long time, going back to the 16th century. This property is probably 18th century, built in the 1700s. Very large house behind the trees, which we can't really see very well. And the footpath will take us down to the Kennet and Avon that way, or we can get on by the bridge. Taking advantage of the sunshine today. I've had a bit of cloud and a fair drop of rain over the last couple of days, and wind as well, which is always a problem when we're trying to record for you, because that affects the microphone more than anything really. So we're coming over to the Semington Brook. We have a Semington Brook pumping station there. Take a look over the wall. There is a sign on here. So this bridge was rebuilt in 1947. We have the brook flowing this side. If we were to travel down the brook this way, we'd eventually reach Littleton Mill, which was burned down in the year 1802 when it was a woolen mill in the protests, and for which Thomas Helliker was hanged for the crime of burning it down in 1803, although it is believed that he was an innocent man. He was only a very young man, just 18. So you can find his story at rolandmillward.com. I'll put a link for you to find out more about Thomas Helliker. An interesting story and regarded by many as a martyr for the trade union movement. We'll just take a look at the Semington Brook from the opposite side of the bridge. So leaving that bridge behind, we'll move up to the canal, the Kennet and Avon Canal, which flows up to the River Thames. It's also a cycle route, so you can cycle from Bristol all the way through to London on the cycle route number 4. We'll get our way to the Humbeck Bridge. So I'll work our way onto the bridge, which takes us over the Kennet and Avon Canal and through to Melksham if we were to carry on. Just a few hundred yards over this bridge is where the railway line once ran through two Devizes and would have had a stop for Semington. We will take a walk along the towpath in both directions in a moment. And we'll tell you about the locks as well. Now this canal was built between 1794 and 1802 and supervised by John Rennie. The railway, which ran just to the north of here, was opened in 1857, and the station, Semington Halt, was opened in 1906, and the whole thing closed with those beaching cuts in 1966. So we'll go under the bridge now. Now originally the Wilts and Berks Canal, which is disused, ran from here. You can see the sign there, Wilts and Berks. It ran from here all the way through to Abingdon. There are plans to reopen it, other side of the bridge, to flow round to Melksham into the River Avon, and then to try and rebuild as much of it as possible. Some using old sections, some has gone, long gone, been built on of course. But we can take a look at the sign. So this was the original Wilts and Berks connection there. So here we are, the Wilts and Berks Canal. Sections have been restored, but there's still a lot more work to do for the Canal Trust. But as the Kennet and Avon was restored, so that one can be as well. Now these two locks are called the Semington locks. We've got lock number 15, which is known as Buckley's, and then lock number 16, which is known as Barrett's. the combined rise of these two locks. So it's quite a hill really to get up. It's 16 foot 1 inches if you're in old money, and 4.9 metres for the metricated ones of you. We never have really changed over properly in Britain, have we? Although things are sold metrically more often than not, many of us still like to refer to them in the old way. Take a look down in the lock. Back to the road bridge. As you can see, this is lock number 15. They are all numbered, so this is Buckley's lock. And the lockkeeper's cottage. Imagine when all these locks were actually manned. And like the time railway crossings were also manned. So just take a look at the workshops here as well. You do want to come here, they do sell ice creams over that cottage there. It's a very popular canal nowadays. There's more traffic on this canal than when it was built for the purpose of moving goods around. There are many people who live on the canal and work on the canal, in fact, too. Got the dry docks in there. Well, the water pumps are working hard to keep the dry docks dry. So we'll work our way up to lock number 16, the Barrett's lock, and just show you that one while we're here. I hope you're enjoying the travels I do for you, and please do remember to click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and then every time a new video is uploaded you'll be notified by the system that there's a video for you to watch. Have you ever had a holiday on a canal, or have you lived on a canal? Do you live on one now? Drop me a comment in the box below on YouTube, and if you're watching this at rolandmillward.com on the blog, pop in a comment there as well. Thank you very much. It's nice to see the ripples on the water with the reflection of the sun around as well. Extremely mild for October. We're right at the end of October now, just a few days to go before the month ends, and yet it is September weather really. There's one other famous person that was born in Semington, and that was a gentleman called Isaac Gulliver. He was born in 1745. He died in 1822. He didn't live in Semington at the time, but he was a very wealthy man. He was actually known as King of the Dorset Smugglers. He was a smuggler of some repute, very influential. Managed to escape at one time by pretending to be dead, and then escaping after people had checked that he was so-called dead. Eventually became an honest man. Obviously built his fortune up from smuggling and kept that. So in his case, crime pays. So here we go, Barrett's Lock. Number 16. As we can see. Take a look back down the canal, back to the road bridge. No boats to watch coming through the locks, I'm afraid, for you today. But unusually down here, we have got a division in the canal for the barges to pass safely through. And of course, it's travel on the right on the water, not like we drive on the left here in the UK. These sections are overflows, by the way, so that if the canal gets too full, then the water can overflow, usually into streams below. So there are probably some pipes to take it back down to the Semington Brook. Now, this is an aqueduct coming up now that was built for the bypass. So we'll show you the roadway. So this is quite modern. You hear the roar of the traffic now. Somerset Arms making sure that boaters know they're not too far down the footpath for them to go and have a meal or a drink at the Somerset Arms. So we'll just work our way up to the swing bridge. Semington, only a relatively small place. There's a couple of little hamlet type places. There's a fish jumping up and down out of there a moment ago. Just missed him for the camera for you. You can still see the bubbles. Nope, not going to appear again. Probably will as soon as I move the camera. And here's the bridge. Primarily, I think, for farm access, this one. This is number 158. Everything's numbered on the canals. So any passing boats need to swing that open. It's amazing how well they're counterbalanced, so one person can actually push these along. Just go onto the bridge and take a view either way. So if we carried on in the direction we're walking, and this is bouncing around while I'm standing on it, that would take us through to Seam, then on to Devizes, where there's a huge flight of locks to get up the hill at Devizes, and then back this way we're looking towards Bradford-on-Avon and on to Bath. So beautiful route for anybody on the barge to take. Plenty of countryside to look at. Actually, barges can tie up at this point here, up in order to get onto the bank this side and be able to use this lever to push the bridge open. Sometimes you'll go along a canal and see these curved sections without a bridge, so obviously in some places bridges are taken down. Now I'm going to work my way back from the swing bridge back to the road bridge at Semington. I'm going to take you the other side and just see if I can find a couple of features to point out to you on that side. So when we get there, I'll start recording again and tell you more about it. So we'll go back under the bridge to the west side of the bridge. This is bridge 160. And as I said, we'll tell you about some features over there if we can find them for you. So this is going to be the new route for the Wilts and Berks Canal. So what I've come to show you is this old aqueduct that runs over the Semington Brook, and we'll tell you about that as soon as we reach it. We're nearly there. So we're on the Semington Brook, which is flowing quite nicely at the moment. This is a Grade 2 listed building, or property I should say, bridge. It was listed in 1988. It was James McLuhan and James Porteous that built this. They also built the Avon Cliff and the Dundas aqueducts just further along going towards Bath, and the work was finished by 1804. I'm going to see if I can get down a little bit closer and give you a view of the other side. Sadly, this is the sort of stuff you find nowadays. People dumping their rubbish, presumably those who are staying on boats. Not very pleasant, is it? Expecting somebody else to collect this up for you. Even a kettle there, look. But this is the bridge. Get a view of the brickwork in there. So, finished in 1804. Try to avoid the sun a bit. There we are. It's been a bit of repair with some blue brick in there, you can see in places over the years. That's typical brick they would use on railway bridges. Thank you for joining me on my video today. It's been great that you've watched. If you're not a subscriber yet, please do consider clicking that subscribe button and clicking the notification bell. If you also would like to click that little like button, that too will be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.